Hurricane 2020, Preparing in a Pandemic, sponsored by FPL. Learn more at fpl.com/storm. Coming up on Hurricane 2020, Preparing in a Pandemic. How might sheltering plans and evacuation orders be impacted by COVID-19 concerns? Plus, what is the forecast for this season? We'll look at what might influence storm formation. And life after Dorian. We get an emotional first-hand account of the ongoing recovery in the Northwest Bahamas. Now, Hurricane 2020, Preparing in a Pandemic.
Welcome and thanks for joining us. Hurricane season is officially here. I'm Craig Setzer.
And I'm Lauren Pastrana. For the first time ever, hurricane season comes amid a pandemic. But pandemic or not, atmospheric conditions dictate if and where storms will form and where they will go. So we begin with a forecast. Craig.
So there's several ingredients we look at during an upcoming hurricane season. One is just the basic background activity. Is it above normal in terms of the past several years? That's a yes. Our hurricane seasons have been above normal. Another ingredient is what's going on out in the main development region. This is the area we watch very carefully, especially in August, September, and October for development out here, because a lot of the major hurricanes that we get in South Florida have an origin somewhere out here in the tropical Atlantic or even in the eastern or central Caribbean. And what plays a role in how strong the hurricanes could be? It's the temperatures out here, the ocean temperatures, and in this case, right now at least, they are running above normal. So this is something we're going to watch as we go through the hurricane season. Are these temperatures cooling off or are they staying above normal? That's the Atlantic. Now on the other side, there's the Pacific, and it's down here in the tropical eastern Pacific that we have our El Nino, La Nina region. El Nino is typically warmer than normal waters, and that creates wind shear, and that wind shear is usually disruptive for hurricanes. In this case, the forecast is for neutral or weak La Nina conditions. That's not something we want to see, because weak La Nina down here usually means that the disruptive wind shear, the wind shear that disrupts hurricanes, is lower than normal in the Atlantic, and that would typically lead to more of an active type of season. So what is the official hurricane season forecast? The experts at Colorado State University forecast there will be 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 of them strengthening into major hurricanes. The season averages are 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. Lauren, back to you.
In the event a threatening storm prompts evacuations, shelters and evacuation centers will open in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. But how will that look in the age of social distancing? I spoke to the emergency managers in both counties to find out what plans are in place to protect those who need to evacuate.
The typical planning is no small feat. What we're having to do this season is to take all the considerations from the CDC and other agencies and add to that the things that we've learned during our current activation. And we're developing a plan that takes all those factors into account, and that'll allow us to make the safest possible environment for the citizens should there be need to evacuate their homes.
When people evacuate their homes, there's a good chance that they may not have anywhere else to go but a shelter. Talk about how these shelters are going to be able to accommodate for social distancing to ensure everyone's health and safety.
What we're going to be doing in the shelters is taking the information as regards to social distancing and limiting the amount of people that we will be putting into each shelter, perhaps opening up additional shelters as the numbers get to the level where we want to stop. We'll also be insisting that people who come bring their PPE, and we will of course have temperature checks and other screening measures as people enter, just to make sure we keep everyone as safe as possible.
Broward typically utilizes schools as shelters, and the same is true for Miami-Dade's evacuation centers. The county has plans to have additional locations ready to prevent overcrowding and maintain social distancing.
The number of shelters or evacuation centers that we have 81 of them, and that includes 4 of the medical evacuation centers for those with special needs. And we're in the process now of gearing up another school for special needs so that we can give them more space. Generally, we give this people in the medical evacuation center 60 square feet. To be able to do that and have the number of people that we have, we're going to have to add another school. So we're in the process of working that out with the school system right now. The school system will be doing the deep cleaning now of all the classrooms and all the equipment in the school. They normally do that into the summer before school opens, but they're doing that now because we need more space within these evacuation centers. So they're going to remove the furniture from half of the classrooms, deep clean everything there, and we'll have those rooms available to us if we have to isolate families or areas where we need to put people that are COVID positive away from the general population.
I know usually we tell people if they're going to one of these evacuation centers, bring your own supplies, you need to be self-sustaining here. What about personal protective equipment? Is that something that the emergency management department and the county are going to be able to provide to people at these evacuation centers, or should people be mindful to bring their own?
So you need a kit, but if you don't have that when you come to a shelter, you will be given masks for you and your family, hand sanitizer, gloves, and there'll be wipes, sanitary wipes for wiping areas down and wiping equipment down and things that you touch.
That's obviously something new for this hurricane season, or has it always been the fact that there's been that sort of equipment and supplies available to people when they arrive at the evacuation center?
Generally, we don't supply anything other than food. We feed you. And we tell you to bring your own supplies, your own needs, your medicines, those things that you have that are peculiar to you that you need to have, you supply those. But in these situations, as difficult as it is to come up with this equipment, these supplies, even for the county, that we have difficulty in having a large stock of these supplies because they're constantly being used by our first responders and nurses and doctors in the hospitals. So it's a constant battle to replenish in large quantities. But we're doing that now. We're assembling the large quantity of supplies that we'll need if, in fact, it comes to that term that we have to house that many people.
Here's an option to see if you live in an evacuation zone in Miami-Dade or Broward. Go to the Hurricane News section at cbsmiami.com. Click on the Evacuation Zone interactive map, then enter your address and zip code.
Evacuation orders apply to roughly about 10% of South Florida residents. That means that the rest of us have to have a plan ahead in case we have to hunker down at home.
CBS 4 meteorologist Dave Warren reports on what these folks need to know to prepare for a hurricane in a pandemic.
Actually, sheltering in place is actually a very good thing because the shelters are going to be tough this year with the coronavirus. So let's talk about what they need to do, particularly if you haven't gone through a hurricane before. Your basic supplies. You make sure you have a first aid kit. Make sure you have. We used to say 3-day supply of food and water, but actually now we're talking about probably a week's supply of food and water in your house. And I'm saying that because of the difficulty of getting supplies right now. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they limit the amount of people in the store, and that may continue on. So it could take you a longer time to get the things you want. If you go to a Publix grocery store, Winn-Dixie, or Walmart, they're limiting the amount of people allowed in the store at a time. And if that doesn't change, that's going to slow things down.
So let's say somebody's new to the area. Somebody's moved down. They've never gone through a hurricane before. I know you've gone through quite a few. What's something that they can expect as the forecasts start coming in and it looks like it's targeting the area?
Well, if you're sheltered in your home, you're pretty much going to be stuck there. One, there's probably not going to be any power for several days, sometimes a couple of weeks, like we've seen in some hurricanes. The roads will be blocked with tree debris down, with power lines down, other types of debris in the street.
I know you were here for Hurricane Andrew. Building up the supplies, a lot of people might think that's to deal with the hurricane, but is actually for the periods that are following the hurricane. What is the aftermath like?
It's the aftermath where we have the majority of our injuries. People get out, they've been up all night, they're tired, they decide they want to start clearing the debris themselves. Sometimes they have a chainsaw or a generator, and that's a foreign object to most people who have not dealt with those things before. And people fall off the roofs, they slip and fall, they cut themselves. They need to be very, very careful.
You're watching Hurricane 2020, preparing in a pandemic.
Welcome back. From the Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee, Jared Moskowitz has been coordinating the state's response to COVID-19 while also getting ready for hurricane season.
He recently spoke to CBS 4's Jim DeFede about having to throw out the old playbook for hurricane preparations and come up with a new one that will work during a pandemic.
Obviously, you have to make changes with COVID-19. And we've been doing that. It's why at the very beginning of this, we have a planning cell here at the Division of Emergency Management that we took out from the COVID response. And from day one in early March said, you're going to plan for hurricanes with COVID-19. You're going to analyze things like shelters. Are we going to do mass congregate sheltering? Maybe we have smaller shelters. We're clearly going to do temperature checks at these shelters. People would have to have PPE. People are going to have to be separated. If someone comes and has a high temperature or COVID, what do you do with them? Do you bring them to a COVID-only shelter? We're also in conversations with FEMA. I'm looking forward to a decision that they're going to make about non-congregate sheltering. What does that mean? That means putting people in hotels, pre-event, pre-landfall, putting them in hotels. We have an electronic system here that we've worked with a partner on about pre-registering in the electronic system, even checking into that hotel. Additionally, I mean, unfortunately, our hospitality industry here has been taking a huge hit after the pandemic, and that could be a way to also help stimulate the hospitality industry and might be a real win for families.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's stay with shelters for a second. Will the COVID crisis affect the way you might give orders to evacuate?
On evacuation specifically, what we're talking to our local county emergency managers about is that perhaps we can limit evacuations in specific circumstances. Let me give you an example. Clearly, if you live in a surge zone, right, you live in an area that floods, you're going to have to evacuate. But if we're dealing with a Category 1, Category 2 storm, and you live in a structure that was built after 2002 with the Hurricane Andrew building code from Miami-Dade County, do you have to evacuate? And the answer potentially is no. You might get a stay-at-home order where other people might be issued an evacuation order. So these are all the things that we are examining. We're doing that in close consultation with FEMA. We've brought in folks like Craig Fugate, former Administrator Craig Fugate, former Administrator Brock Long, as folks to give us additional advice. Because let's be honest, nobody out there has any experience doing hurricanes and pandemics together. And we've been preparing this now for several months, fine-tuning everything, making sure, obviously, that we provide the tools necessary for our local folks who make these decisions. But there's no doubt evacuations may be done differently.
You asked the question of yourself earlier, do we do mass congregation shelters or do we do smaller shelters? Have you reached a conclusion on that?
So yes, the answer is FEMA has put out guidance, and that guidance is that shelters should be limited to 50 people or less. And so that question, something that we were asking ourselves in early March on that particular topic, has been answered by FEMA. That guidance has been pushed out to the local county administrators, local county emergency managers. And so if there are shelters, they will be much smaller.
Are you worried that you might have a situation where if Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach are being asked to evacuate north, that those counties that would be receiving Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach residents may not want them because of a fear that they're bringing COVID with them into their community?
There's no doubt that there's a question of, do you evacuate out of a hot zone? Do you evacuate into a hot zone? Maybe you just evacuate east to west and get people as inland as possible. That's where the non-congregate sheltering comes into place. I anticipate that all the counties are going to work together. And if we have to evacuate people out of Broward or Dade and we have to put them in hotels, let's say hypothetically in Orange County, I anticipate that folks are going to step up. We have done a great job in the state of Florida, county to county, with mutual aid, people understanding that one year it's Irma, the next year it's Michael, the other year it's Matthew, hitting completely different areas of the state. We rolled equipment from Miami-Dade County all the way to Bay County. We just had a fire in Collier County. We rolled equipment from all over the state. The fire in Santa Rosa County, equipment came as far as Gainesville. So everyone in Florida understands we're all in this together. One day it's them, one day it's us, and we have to work together.
Now let's focus on the National Hurricane Center for a moment. I spoke with Director Ken Graham about his thoughts on the 2020 season and working in a pandemic.
Yeah, everybody's doing fine. We've got some folks working from home. We definitely still have 24-hour operations here the whole entire time. So we're doing everything we can to stay helpful.
Okay, let's briefly talk about the season and the outlooks are for potentially above normal season. First off, what are you seeing for that? And then we'll talk about what that would mean as far as we're concerned.
We're planning on it, but you and I have talked so many times, whether it's a busy season or not, it's so important to just plan on being hit. I mean, it's just plan on as if you're going to have a hurricane this year.
In the age of coronavirus, are you planning any differently this hurricane season?
We don't have every detail yet on how things are going to change, but look how just on a very personal level that we've adapted what we're going to do and make sure we have that social distancing and making sure we get supplies a little earlier. We're not going to panic now, but if you can add a couple things to your list every week and kind of pile it up for time, you'll have some things ready and you won't be part of that panic when the storm starts to threaten.
As if they don't have enough on their plates with the pandemic, local mayors are now faced with leading their communities through yet another hurricane season. Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez and Broward Mayor Dale Holness are the faces of their counties, and many will be looking to them to be the voice of calm in a storm. I spoke with them to get their thoughts on leading in these unprecedented times.
I've never been busier in my life, actually. You know, I thought that I would never be busier than when I was at the city of Miami and I was the emergency manager during Hurricane Andrew. That was a pretty busy time, but this is actually a lot busier.
You have planned for hurricanes and hurricane seasons in the past as mayor. Has that helped you sort of in your response to the pandemic?
Well, look, I'm a paramedic by trade. I'm a firefighter. I was a fire chief. All of that has helped. You know, I have medical knowledge, and so not to a level of a doctor, but I do have medical knowledge. And so all of that and the experience that I've had over 40 years, all of it has helped, obviously. But, you know, the pandemic it's a new curveball, and it's something that nobody's seen in the United States, or probably around the world, for about 100 years. And so we're writing the book as we react to this. You know, we want to make sure that we leave whatever we did, why we did those things to future administrations so that they don't really have to learn from scratch like we do.
For Jimenez's Broward counterpart, Dale Holness, this will be his first hurricane season as mayor.
It will be difficult. It will be a struggle for us to deal with both of them at one time, but we'll have to do what we need to do in order to protect and take care of the people of Broward County.
Do you feel as mayor a sort of duty to sort of be the face of the county and the voice of calm during these difficult times?
It is an awesome responsibility that I have taken on, and you're right. My main role is to ensure we're educating and informing the public and ensuring we're working together in a calm way and taking the steps that we need to engage the entire community, engaging our cities and all our partners to work together because we're in this together. And this pandemic has shown the world that as humans, we're very connected. What affects one affects the other, and especially here at the local level. So we have to work together to fight this pandemic and then be prepared also, in case a hurricane hit us, that we're ready to deal with that.
Still, you're watching Hurricane 2020, preparing in a pandemic.
Welcome back. We hear over and over, it only takes one storm to make it a bad season if that storm happens to hit where you live. That was certainly the case last year with Hurricane Dorian for our neighbors in the Bahamas.
I spoke with Molly McIntosh, the manager of Bluff House Beach Resort and Marina and a longtime resident of Green Turtle Key, a small Abacos island, about what she went through and how she and the islands are doing now.
You know, we're a small island. We don't have as much infrastructure as you do in Miami, but we do our best to get everything away and inside and protected. I've been there 30 years, so I've been through a lot, and we've gotten it. We thought we had it down pat.
So describe that night. I'm sure it's quite vivid, unfortunately, in your mind. What was going on, what you were thinking, what the locals there were doing?
We thought that it was going to be strong. We knew, and we were thinking like Floyd was. Floyd was pretty bad. Dorian made Floyd look like a walk in the park. It was longer, it was stronger, very destructive and devastating to the whole island. About 6 terrible hours that were unbearable. Tornadoes came through. There's houses on either side of my house. They were totally demolished. A roof came off and hit my house, and that took my roof off. You know, concrete houses crumbled. It was amazing. So we were all, before the storm, everybody was, like I said, thinking it was going to be bad. We knew it was going to be bad.
Talk a little bit about the recovery and how I know days turn into weeks, and it's just like nothing seems to be happening.
We didn't have electricity until the 2nd of January. So all you heard was the We were so lucky. The people from South Florida, many of our guests that come back and forth, brought over generators, they brought over food, they brought over water. We wouldn't have survived. We had nothing. And 8 months later, we're still, we're getting ready for hurricane season again, and we have people that have houses with no roofs on them. It's a tough situation. The economic thing is, yes, to come back as soon as they can, and as soon as we're ready, as soon as this virus passes. I mean, people were coming back in when things get better, and I think you're going to see things done differently. We're going to be more conscious of keeping things clean and social distancing, and that type of thing is going to have to come into play.
We really felt that here in South Florida, for the Bahamas, for the Abacos, after this event, and there was a huge effort, a huge lift on our part to help. What would you? Was it noticeable over there? Did you get the sense that your neighbors were reaching out?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't stress that enough. Is that we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have survived without the help from South Florida. It was huge.
You're watching Hurricane 2020, preparing in a pandemic. We have the information you need to get ready. Connect with CBS4 on Facebook and Twitter, as well as cbsmiami.com. Our website's hurricane section is a comprehensive resource to help with your family's hurricane plan.
That's going to do it for Hurricane 2020, preparing in a pandemic. Thank you for joining us. Craig, you have some closing thoughts you'd like to share?
Each year I give some closing thoughts on our upcoming hurricane season, but this year is unique because we're already dealing with very large challenges from the virus. If you add on top of that a hurricane impact, it would seem overwhelming. But one thing I learned in the very busy 2004 and 2005 seasons, you just have to take each challenge one at a time. So as always, let's have our supplies together and have a plan ready to go just a little bit sooner this year. Be safe, everyone.